So right now, at the time of doing this, there is a quite big rebellion brewing in the Labour Party. About 127, I think, at last I heard. We'll see what ends up materialising. Sometimes, as we know very well in the past. Um, Sometimes, there is this big rebellion talked about, and it never materialises. We'll have to see, of course, what happens. But I am very much behind these people who are rebelling. This is basically democracy in action. This is what happens. This is when you have a good functioning democracy, when you have a party that says, it is about the party, it is about democracy, it is not about one individual. And I think that is a good thing that is going on right here. Again, don't 100% agree with everything going on in the PIP bill. There are some good stuff that's happening here, and I think you've seen Phil from Different Bias talk about some of that good stuff. But of course, there's some bad stuff in there. I don't 100% agree with it, but I've said before, pardon me, you will get a government. You will never 100% like what that particular government does. It's just the way politics works. However, of course, I want to go across the pond because you've had a guy called Zohran Mamdani who's just won the Democratic nomination to become New York's mayor. And I made a members video for this, for the patrons and the YouTube members. And in that, I basically said, if you transplanted the current UK left over to America, they would be basically saying what Mandani has done is just impossible, that you cannot do it. You physically cannot do it. That trying to change a political party is just inherently impossible. Well, they've kind of just shown in America that if you are willing to put in the hard work and you are willing to do the hard graft, turns out, yeah, you can do that. You can change a party like that. And you are seeing that movement happen in America. But over here, the movement is, well, don't worry, Jeremy Corbyn's creating a party. So, they'll all go and join that. Or, you'll join the Green Party, hope Zach Polanski wins, and then you'll have a choice between the Zach Polanski-led Green Party and the Corbyn Party, which is again going to massively split the left-wing vote on that. Again, he might not win that Green Party vote, which eventually he'll probably go and join Corbyn's party, just proving the fact he's a massive entryist and as are most of the people who join the Green Party under the GO, shall we say, branding to try and get, of course, Zach elected. But maybe about that another time. I am looking forward to seeing what happens on that because either way, it's fun. And certainly, as you've seen a lot of people talk about in the Green Party, especially online, they're worried that if Zach wins, party unity is going to be greatly fractured along a lot of different lines. So, fun for me. Anyway, of course, back what happened over in America, because I think there is a lot to learn. I think there is a lot to learn for the UK left from Madani's win, because it does prove that, yes, you can go into a mainstream party like Labour and make a change if you are willing to fight for it and you're willing to do the hard graft. And the thing is, and I will accuse a lot of people on the left for this, they ain't willing to do that hard graft. They ain't willing to do the fight. It's like they lose a battle and then, oh, that's it. It's all over. But anyway, back on to this, because I think this is a very, very interesting lesson to sort of learn for everyone, especially now that we have, a Labour government in this. And it's like this 100 people, I don't know what we would call it, a progressive majority, maybe. But anyway, on to this. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Links to my Patreon page, buy me a coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course the YouTube membership button down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So this actually coming from Bernie Sanders about this. Will they actually learn a lesson from this? We'll see, of course. But the Democratic Party is at a crossroads, he begins. It can now continue to push the politics and maintain a very broken and rigged economic and political system, or trying to ignore the pain of the 60% of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck. It can turn its back on the dreamers now of the younger generation, which don't see change in that system. They will now even likely be worse off than their parents. It can, of course, continue to depend on the billionaire donors and out of touch campaign consultants that spend huge amounts of money now on dumb 30-second ads that fewer and fewer people now respond to. Or it can ignore the tragic reality that now tens of millions of Americans are now giving up on democracy because they do not see their government understanding their struggles and the realities of their lives or doing anything about it. Or now it can learn the lesson of Zohran Mamdani. This campaign taught us now on Tuesday, and that is to have the courage to address real economic issues, moral issues, and fight in the face of the majority now of our people to take on the power and greed of the oligarchy and fight for an agenda that can improve working lives, improve the life now of working families. Again, you're willing to do it, and you're willing to put in hard work, you can make a difference. But again, I blame a lot of that on the cult of Corbyn that happened around that time. I think that's what a lot of people got really dissatisfied with. And, you know, maybe following cult like figures, maybe like Zach is an example of stuff that's happening there. But we'll see. Maybe more on that another time. Some may, of course, claim that Mandani's victory was, of course, just about style and fact. He's a very, of course, charismatic candidate. Yes, he is, but if you don't get Mandani victory without now an extraordinary grassroots movement, again, this is where a lot of people don't do that rallied around him. You don't get that movement of tens of thousands of enthusiastic people now knocking on doors without an economic agenda, speak to the needs of working people. And the people of New York and Americans all understand that. The richest country on earth, they shouldn't have to struggle every day just to put food on the table to pay their rent or medical bills. These are people the Democratic consultants don't even know exist. Madani has, of course, been criticised now for his radical and unrealistic economic policies, demanding that in a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, that rich and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes, demanding that many New Yorkers that are now no longer able to find affordable housing should now freeze their rent hikes, demanding that when commuting to a job takes now a big toll out of a worker's paycheck and public transportation should be free, demanding that when many low-income working people are now unable to address good or quality food for themselves and their kids, that publicly owned neighborhood grocery stores should be created. Again, all things that very, very much, certainly affect New York. Some of those things very similar, of course, over here. Certainly not, the food desert thing. I don't think that's really an issue over here in the UK, certainly at the moment. But a lot of us would, of course, recognise commuting, especially on trains. That's the big one. Rent hikes, rent freezes. Um, Something that a lot of people have talked about now is going to be like the next big campaign push by a lot of the people in housing. Now they've got the 0 hour, no, not the 0 hour, the no fault evictions gone. This is what a lot of like campaign groups like Shelter and etc. are now starting to sort of talk up and saying this is the next big fight. So we're getting there eventually, slowly but surely, but we're getting there. Um, so where are we? So, of course, these ideas and more, of course, are not radical. They may not, of course, what billionaires and wealthy campaign contributors and real estate speculators want, but they are what working people want. And maybe, just maybe, it's actually time to listen to them. Mandami's victory was not about star power. It was very much about people power, about revolutionizing democracy and opening the door for ordinary people to gain control of decisions that impact their lives. Importantly, of course, he did not run away from moral issues that is troubling many millions of New Yorkers and in around the country. The need to end US military support, the right-wing extremist Benjamin Netanyahu's government in Israel. That is now obliterating people of Gaza and starving their children. Mandani, of course, understands that anti-Semitism is a disgusting and dangerous ideology, but it is not anti-Semitic to be critical of the inhumane policies of the Netanyahu government. The lessons of Mandami's campaign that it is now not just good enough to be critical of Trump and his destructive policies. We have to now bring forth a positive vision and analysis of things of why the way things are. Which again, 100% agree on that. It is, of course, not good enough to maintain the status quo that is now failing most Americans, and it is now a time of now in hope to an increasingly short supply that people must now make a sense that if we work together, that we can take the courage to take on very powerful special interest and try to create a better world, a world of economic, social, and radical environmental justice. Will the Democratic Leadership Party learn these lessons of the Mamdani campaign? Probably not. Too many of them are, of course, rather be the captains of now the sinking Titanic rather than changing course. But again, there is now, I think, the Mamdani campaign has probably really lit a fire under a lot of people. That if you go and you win these smaller races, if you win the mayor races, if you win the governor races, if you win a lot of these lower races, then you have a lot of power to really push for stuff at the top. And I think if you do see this, which I think you are, really starting to focus on those low level races because they're just important. It's the national ones as well. And I've made this point time and time again. Look at our turnout rate here in the UK. Why did Reform win? Because the turnout rate was so low. Because lots of people just did not go out and vote. It would be very, very much different if people went out and voted. But anyway, back to this. Then, of course, again, it doesn't matter, of course, what they think. The establishment threw everything they had against Mamdani. Millions now in super PAC money, endorsements now from important people, a hostile media, and they still lost. The future of the Democratic Party will, of course, not be determined by its current leadership. It will be determined by the working class of this country. Increasingly, people understand that our political system is now corrupt and that billionaires should not be able to buy elections. They understand that we should now have an unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality, that we should not be the only wealthy country in the world to guarantee healthcare for all. Why should we now deny young people, the right to higher education because of their income? Why should we not have a major crisis in affordable housing? Why should there not be a minimum wage that is now a starvation wage? That is not what should allow corporations now to illegally prevent union organization, and again, much, much more. The American people are now beginning to stand up and fight back. We have seen that fight in the many of the fighting oligarchy events that we've done around the country. And again, those events, I think Bernie Sanders and AOC did the fighting oligarchy tour that made huge crowds, thus proving the message they are sending is popular. It resonates. And they did so much stuff, so much stuff that if you are the Democratic Party, you should be looking at that and going, we should maybe be looking at that. But again, the left over there in America, I think, starting to change, starting to form, and really starting to fight back, not just from a grassroots point, but really from within the Democratic Party. And there's a lot of people in the left in the UK that have said doing that is absolutely impossible, that you cannot affect any change of a Democratic Party, which I think is absolutely ridiculous thing to say. But that's one of the conversations I had with a certain individual. Anyway, they've drawn, of course, huge turnouts. We've seen that the millions of people now came out for the No Kings rally that took place just this month in almost every state. And yesterday we saw the Democratic primary, of course, in New York City. And we're going to go forward. There is no one is going to stop us. So again, I think Bernie's message there is good. What is a good one should resonate, and I think this is something that a lot of people left should be learning. That yes, you can change a party. Takes time, absolutely, but it's worth fighting for because you already have infrastructure, funding, all the stuff that party has. Otherwise, you've got to rebuild all that from the ground up, and that doesn't just exist straight away. So, as always, let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.